Huge breaking news here in the CDL with Nium reportedly joining LA Thieves, with them dropping Kenny from the squad, who's been, a staple and icon for Thieves forever now, and after the last 2 years hasn't really been that player that we used to know. Also, Gentlemen, they won the major after an amazing game against Optic. For me, they were the favorites. They looked great online, and they looked great on land. Drio and Koi, and for me, the top team, a bunch of, I guess, players that deserved a shot, the players that deserved a redemption after the past couple of years with them. Sib in New York, who had it slow last year, and then Neptune went losing like 5 grand finals that year. Ghosty, who got dropped from LA Thieves, for me, which was a huge mistake. And then also same with Envoy there. So a group of players that wanted a redemption, and they finally got it after winning this major. Huge with that. And of course the challengers scene with Saudi or ROC, with the whole Saudi squad, and of course Vortex, the European, one of the top European challengers players in the past couple of years now retired, but he's coaching, and they got a huge win. First ever non-NA team and EU team that's won it, so that's really impressive, and great for them. That's how the scene is growing and becoming of that. And of course Scump, he has a kid. That's mind-blowing for me. I'm 19. I've been watching Scump since I was 10 years old maybe, so it's crazy to see him grow into the person that he is today, of professional player to content creator, and streaming to all this stuff, Optic. I hated him growing up, absolutely hated him, but you can't say that he's not a person that's an icon in the scene, icon figure. And another thing is Priestahh retiring Call of Duty, arguably for me one of the most underappreciated players in the league. I remember him in Theives. They should have won in World War II. I remember that whole year. Before that, he was obviously in Cloud9. And then that 100 Thieves BO4 season, when he got in after Theives didn't make it to the Pro League, LA Thieves, or 100 Thieves, picked up Crowder, and they had an amazing Cinderella story after a disappointing start of the season for 100 Thieves. And it was just amazing from there. It was, I have my old soccer band from other videos, whatever. But yeah, it's such an underrated player, especially when you join Atlanta FaZe. I thought he was going to be like the poster boy, one of the faces of the league. And I mean, he pretty much did it. He came grand finals with Atlanta FaZe, grand finals 103s, that back-to-back years of losing champs, which sucks. And of course, the year after, joining, what was it, Rocker, and then winning there. It's just great for Preston. So, and of course winning champs in New York, you can't forget that. So such a underrated player there. And of course, this is going to be huge. It is the Paris, or the champs, obviously got announced, will be in Vegas, and 12,000. The one next major in Birmingham is only 6,000, 4,000, and comparing it to different leagues, obviously there's League of Legends and CS:GO, which produced thousands of fans, and Call of Duty is a top known league, and it does pull views, not in just the live matches, but also in content wise, with the Optic, the pros in general, and Zoomaa and the flank and everything. Call of Duty do have a massive fan base. It's just I feel like it can be much more. So hopefully this does fill up to the max. And obviously you have the Paris major with 40,000. I think it's gonna feel pretty good, because I think you saw the Fortnite land that they had a whole stadium filled with tens of thousands of people. So I think 40,000 for major 4, I don't know. That was 100% gonna be the most most people in a CDL Call of Duty Pro League match of all time. So that's unbelievable. Just to go, and then of course 12K, which is huge in the States. I don't know if it's gonna fill up. You look at the Toronto event last year for grand champs, and it was empty all weekend up until Sunday, which was just shocking. And it could be because of where the venue is, could be where the champs final is. This is in Vegas, in the Las Vegas Strip, so it's gonna be huge for the league. I'm actually really excited for champs this year. Nate comes out with he's not really in touch with the scene of Call of Duty like that anymore. But he came out saying he's not a huge fan of the SMG situation, that they just drop whatever, which is true. The first thing pros do is, if they don't like something, they're GAing it the second they can. It's just something that the whole community knows about and talks about, and get hate on the pros on G'ing every little thing, G'ing snipers, G'ing every SMG, G'ing every third gun option. So that's been a huge debacle there. Personally, for me, it's like Warzone. No one sticks to the same meta in Warzone. There's different metas, different people using different guns. Obviously, there should be an extent to no shotguns as well, etc. How League has always been. But yeah, I see nothing wrong with change. After the qualifiers, they G8 the gun just like that. Where I forgot what it was, but it was another SMG. I forgot the name, but they G8 it the same day after. I think it was Vegas that used it, or G2. I think Kremp was using this gun when they were versing Vegas. And Informal comes up with an announcement here with Huntsman. Obviously, it's rumored that certain players in the Huntsman roster is going to leave. Nium to LA Theives, Renegade to C9. And obviously he says he wants to pick up Legend, Ocus. Ocus obviously the Stallions, and I don't think he's gonna lead the Stallions, the Golden Child. And then grab a 4 reps. Only if Kips, Renegade, Nium go to the league, which they probably are. The one thing good about the scene of the challengers as a whole, so many talented new up and coming, or even people who've been in the league before. This challenger season, it's so competitive, and it's even this season in the league itself, it's been such a close encounter matches. You saw a team win the LAN that you didn't expect to win in challengers, and it's just such an underrated scene, the challengers this year. And I'm happy it's finally got the publicity that it finally deserves with Huntsman and Stallions and Telluride Bush and Ahmed, Rafika. The whole thing is just something I love to see. Zoomaa, who's in the hospital, said something about, I forgot what he mentioned, but I'm pretty sure he's fine. They're trying to drop Purge or Cammy. Rumored, Huntsman's trying to take Ocus away from them. This has been a huge talking point for like a month now. And with Nium, he's been in the Huntsman since the beginning of the year. Looks like one of the best players in challengers. And Theives signed him as a bench, but they had like a 1 month grace period of after Major 1. If they don't use him, then they can't use him. They're gonna, Huntsman will take him back. Optic, Huntsman, whatever, will take him back from that. So, do you take the risk? People are saying before the Major you should have just done it already, but no, I think you should have gave Kenny a chance. Kenny showed glimpses, but still, in some cases, this LA Thieves team just look lost. They don't look nowhere near where they're capable of. They have a Beasley, Hydra, Scrappy, and Kenny. On paper, that team looks amazing, but they're not working well together. So we'll see what happens there. And Koi, who didn't make a change but made a swap on SMG and the flex role with Realf being a flex, and then Kleenex going back to an SMG. Before they make a change, I say why not? If try this out, if it doesn't work, then make a change. But you brought that whole drama, bringing in Real from Heretics and all that just to drop him. I don't think so. I don't even think he's gonna be a candidate to drop. There's Jamie, there's Insight that people talk about. There's Kleenex, who's been in this org for years. So there's that. But if it doesn't work out, then might as well make a change. But there's nothing wrong about trying this out for a couple weeks of qualifiers. This is the huge news here with C9 making a huge roster swipe. They dropped Vivid, Beans, Mac, and Afro. I didn't expect the whole roster to be out. I thought at least maybe they would have kept Mac. I think Mac still shows glimpses of the player that he could be, after not playing for a year or so. I wasn't a fan when this roster was formed, and I knew people were 100% going to get dropped from this roster. And it's a shame with the only New York team in the league after the whole NYSL amazing brand, amazing media, the content, and the teams. They went back to back world championships. They won one of them. They had a talented roster, amazing branding. Just to taken away to Cloud9, who you thought that they were gonna put a lot into the team and the rebrand and all that, just to give it the bare minimum, to not put anything into it, which is just it's annoying. You had an amazing thing just get taken away just for a org to not care at all for it. If you didn't care for it, why join the league in the first place? was a dumb thing. And obviously, here's the Cloud9 reported roster, but there's still some drama with it. You have QK, Renegade, Kip, Spart, or Wake. You have. Am I a fan of his roster? Not really. I mean, yeah, of course, QK has been a name people's been talking about for a couple weeks now, and they exclusive came out breaking that QK does not want to join Cloud9 because he's not, he doesn't think that this roster is a real contender to compete in the league, which he's probably right. Like I said, I don't think that roster on paper is just really gonna do anything. You have a lot of your players that haven't been in the league before. I think it's good to mix up with players that have been in the league and players that haven't, half and half, or even if it's like you, a rookie up and comer playing with three. It doesn't even have to be vets. That just has to be players that are used to the system. And then bringing in three players, then challengers at the same time, I don't think that's gonna work. I think him and Mac, and then bringing two others. People are saying Wake. He preferred Wake. It says this. It says here in the he said he'd rather play with experienced players such as Awakening or Mac, which I fully agree on with QK. But yeah, I mean, talented player. There's rumors of Theives apparently coming in for that, but I'm not sure the language barrier of this. Yeah, I don't know if he knows perfect blind English. I have no idea. I never heard him speak. But if he joins in the LA Thieves or even in the league itself, maybe it's not a barrier, but obviously you can get around with it. At Hydra, who barely knew English when he first joined New York. Then you had you have Exnid, who played with, people say his English got insanely good in the off season. So there's that. Then you have Amit. He comes out and states the annual average in salary in the U.S. is $66,000. The median, whatever, 24,000 is less than 3 or 4 orgs in challengers are paying their players, which is mind blowing to me. You have teams paying that much for, I guess, a league that doesn't really get pushed, a league that doesn't really get the recognition that it deserves until this season. And the Orioles, I think, paying that is probably just Amit, because I know Zoomaa's not paying the Stallion salary, so this is probably Huntsman, Telluride, and Amit. That's what I'm guessing. This is where I don't think any other org team atrocious. I don't think so. Stallions, I don't think so. Maybe the Falcons Academy. Actually, they're probably paying salary with them. So there's the Falcons Academy and the other Saudi Arabian team. So there's that, and you mean he's right. If you don't care about the league, don't come in and there's teams that, like Carolina should get out, Boston Breeze should get out, C9. I want New York branding, and C9 is a huge org. You want huge orgs and the name in the league in here, but if they're not gonna put anything to it, why bother even try? So because of them, obviously rumored to wanted to take, or is it a half pay cut for the C9 players, which is just unbelievable. They're getting paid the bare minimum, and people are gonna be like, "Oh, they're getting paid to play a video game." It doesn't work like that. They're not playing to play a video game. They're playing a high level. People are like, "Oh, I can go on the game and play." It doesn't work like that. It's like sports. I can go throw a football and get paid 60. No, it doesn't. $60,000 or even more, hundreds of thousands. It doesn't work like that. And then you have Jersey Jerry. How does a team like that even get into the CDL? I mean, pretty much what I said, the tweet prior. And then Jacob Hale says they're only the biggest esports organization in the world, so it's kind of given that they wanted to get in. I mean, obviously, I wanted it to happen. I wanted Space Station to get into, the league. I remember there was rumored of TSM and Fnatic and C9. Obviously, they got the spot. And then the Falcons, you want the top of the top in the league. You don't want these, early on the CDL, you had Rect Global and, Rogue, NYSL grew their brand, but they're owning partnership NYXO. I'm trying to think. You had the guard, with that whole Cronky situation, which are, they're rich, but they dropped their COD team, so it didn't really work out. But you want teams that care for it. It looked like Boston Breach really cared for it, early on in their league, the majors and the content, and it did look like they cared. Like being one of the only teams to produce a trophy for the challenger teams after winning a cup. or after winning, the LAN, but just for them to be bankrupt, which is a shame. But you want the top of the line teams, but also to care. You look at C9's thing, and they clearly didn't care for it. So, that's pretty much breaking news for CDL. I'm gonna click CDL until just in case I missed anything. I don't think so. Let's check. Spawn GG. They're usually pretty quick on formal dying laughing because I think it's just clips. But yeah, I mean that's pretty much it of the CDL news today. But yeah, it's gonna be a crazy roster mania.